I guess first, before we pull up the complaint itself, for anyone that is unfamiliar with this case, what happened back in October was Alec Baldwin was on the set of Rust, the movie, which was a low budget indie film being shot in New Mexico. And I guess this was just this seems to be common um, for these kinds of indie films that um and speaking of indie, thanks Cherokee Girl for the super chat. um Indy is right there, and I'm sure she will totally appreciate it when I use that on some treats for her. For these kinds of independent films, it's not uncommon for things to be rushed, for things to be sort of drawn on a shoestring, so to speak, because people are trying to make the most out of every little bit that is allocated towards the budget for this kind of a film. So I think anyhow, but so what happened here was apparently it was, despite its low budget, it was a very gun intensive film. And anyhow, so it was a very low budget film, but with a lot of guns. And so when you have a situation like that, we are talking about safety issues that may or may not be properly covered. And it turns out that this film was incredibly rushed. It was incredibly, um, you could say, stretched thin in terms of the people that were working on set for these kinds of roles, for the props, for the armorer, things like that. Apparently, the armorer was working multiple roles, which is not, I guess, not typical, or I guess not, you could say, not up to industry standards, I guess. So anyhow, when they were rehearsing for a scene, he pulled out the firearm that he was using for the scene, and the gun went off, and the director, Joel Souza, was hit, but not before it passed through the cinematographer, Halyna Hutchins. So that's the background there. We have one person that was injured, one person that died. In this particular lawsuit, we're not talking about Joel Souza. We are just talking about Halyna Hutchins. And the lawsuit has been brought by her family, so her husband, or I guess widower, sorry, and her son, as well as a personal representative who filed in New Mexico recently to be the personal representative in this case. Now, what does that mean? So at the end of January, it was reported that there was a filing in New Mexico by an attorney that is close to the family to be the personal representative for the purposes of a wrongful death action. So that is basically, so this person will be suing to represent the estate of Halyna Hutchins. And then you have the husband and the son that are also suing on their own behalf. So what you'll see when I pull up the complaint, you'll see that there is a wrongful death, negligence, or intentional or reckless action. And then at the same time, there is also going to be a cause of action for what's called loss of consortium. Basically, that means the loss of comfort and relationship with that person. So that is a direct loss by the husband and by the son. Traditionally, that is a cause of action that would be brought by a spouse, because it's kind of awkward to talk about, but it's a big part of it is loss of intimate relationships between two spouses. So you can have it in a wrongful death claim, but you can also have it in a personal injury claim where the injury is so bad that they essentially cannot have certain types of relationships with their spouse. But now over time, what's happened is it's sort of expanded. Hogue said loss of consortium on the husband's side, relations in the biblical sense. Yes. But since the traditional days, I guess, it has expanded to in a lot of states, I should say, not in every state, but in a lot of states, it's expanded to the direct family, including children, minor children, or parents can claim the loss of consortium in some states for a minor child as well, because they're talking about a close relationship, a close, maybe not the same type of relationship with a spouse, but anyhow, but so, and New Mexico is one of those states that does allow for a minor child to claim loss of consortium from a parent that has either died or been very, very, very injured.